The training world of Korath was harsh. Red dust whipped across the jagged plains, and jagged rocks jutted from the ground like the teeth of some great predator. The air was thin and dry, making every breath a challenge for anyone not adapted to it. Recruits from dozens of planets had gathered here, each hoping to prove themselves worthy of the Interstellar Defense Corps. Among them was a human girl, small in stature, but carrying herself with a quiet confidence that made the larger aliens pause. Her skin was sun-darkened, her hands strong and calloused from years surviving harsh conditions back on her home planet, known to outsiders as a death world. She had trained her body and mind to endure everything, from violent storms to deadly predators. She knew fear, but she did not let it control her. The aliens, however, did not know that. Most of them, even seasoned recruits from desert planets or frozen moons, looked at her and saw weakness. One of them, a tall, bulky alien recruit named Grath, saw her and sneered. His species was known for their strength. Every muscle in his body bulged under his skin, and he carried himself like a mountain that could not be moved. He had spent his entire life relying on sheer power. When the instructors called for sparring practice, Grath's eyes locked on the human girl. The other recruits spread out across the training field, forming small groups to test each other's skills. Grath stomped forward, intending to show everyone how easy it would be to crush a human. "You look fragile," he rumbled in a voice like falling rocks. "Let's see if you can even stand." The human girl did not flinch. She raised her stance, not aggressive, just ready. Her eyes were calm, almost bored, as if she already knew what was coming. Grath laughed, a deep, harsh sound that echoed across the red plains. With a swift motion, he lunged forward and grabbed her arm, expecting to throw her to the ground. He did not. In an instant, her muscles reacted. Her grip was firm, almost iron-like, and her body moved in a way he could not anticipate. Instead of collapsing, she twisted, and the force he expected to meet resistance met his own momentum. Grath stumbled. A sharp crack echoed in the quiet field. Pain shot through his shoulder like lightning. He fell to the ground, letting go of the human girl's arm in surprise and shock. The other recruits froze. Silence spread across the training ground. Even the instructors paused, their expressions hidden behind masks but their posture stiff. The human girl stepped back, her expression still calm, almost neutral. She had not intended to hurt him, only to defend herself. But the lesson was clear. Humans were not weak. They were not fragile. They were a force to be respected. Grath groaned, clutching his shoulder. He tried to rise, but the pain was sharp and relentless. His pride burned even hotter than his injury. The other aliens whispered, among themselves casting uneasy glances at the human girl. "She's different," one recruit muttered. "Not like us. Not like anyone we trained with before." The instructors motioned for everyone to continue sparring, but the energy had shifted. Recruits who had once sneered at the humans now looked at them with caution. Even Grath, who tried to maintain his arrogance, could not hide his growing fear. He had learned something he would never forget. Brute strength was useless against unpredictability and instinct. Later in the barracks, Grath sat alone, nursing his shoulder. His injury was more than physical. It was a blow to his pride. He remembered the human girl's calm face, the way she had moved like a predator, controlled and precise. He had underestimated her, and it had cost him dearly. Meanwhile, the human girl trained quietly, preparing for the next session. She did not celebrate her victory. She did not taunt him. Humans, especially those from death worlds, did not need to show off. Their strength came from discipline, endurance, and instinct. Every movement, every breath was calculated. Every mistake could mean death, but survival taught them patience and restraint. Over the next few days, the incident with Grath became the talk of the training world. Recruits told the story to one another, exaggerating details, wondering how a human could move with such speed and strength. The instructors watched closely, noting her abilities, marking her as a recruit with exceptional potential. Grath avoided her at first, embarrassed and still sore. But he could not avoid her completely. In exercises where teams were formed, he had no choice but to face her again. Each encounter reminded him of his injury, of his misjudgment, and of the human's hidden strength. He tried to show improvement, to regain his honor. He tried to strike first, to dominate as he thought his species would. But each time the human girl anticipated, dodged, or countered in ways he could not predict. Every lesson reinforced one truth: humans were survivors, adapted to endure far beyond what aliens expected. By the end of the first week, a subtle shift occurred. The human girl was no longer a curiosity. She was a symbol. The other recruits began to treat her with a mixture of caution, respect, and fascination. Grath, once arrogant and dismissive, found himself learning humility in ways he had never imagined. And as the sun set over the jagged plains of Korath, the human girl looked out across the red horizon. She knew the training world would be filled with challenges, stronger opponents, and dangers she had never seen. But she also knew one truth: she was ready. She had survived harsher worlds, harsher conditions, and she would survive this one too, anew. Human girl's first week on Korath had made her reputation. Whispers followed her through the barracks. Some aliens were curious, some cautious, and a few, like Grath, were humiliated yet unwilling to admit it. Her calm strength unsettled the recruits who had believed their size and raw power guaranteed victory. Grath spent long hours nursing his shoulder. The injury had left him weaker than he was used to, and he could no longer dominate sparring sessions. But what stung more was the invisible wound, the shadow of fear that humans inspired in even the strongest alien recruits. Every glance at her reminded him that he had misjudged humans entirely. The instructors, noticing the divide among recruits, decided to push everyone harder. They introduced survival training, designed to test endurance, adaptability, and creativity in extreme conditions. The recruits were placed in the Barrens, a section of Korath's desert filled with scorching winds, jagged rock formations, and unpredictable predator drones. The aliens believed their natural strength and armor would give them the advantage. But the human girl thrived. She moved lightly across the rough terrain, using the rocks for cover and shelter, conserving her energy, and drinking only what she needed. She set traps for predator drones with minimal tools, improvising in ways no alien had thought possible. Grath watched from a distance, wincing every time he saw her act. His species relied on brute strength. Their first instinct was to crush obstacles. But in the Barrens, power alone did not guarantee survival. While the aliens often exhausted themselves trying to tackle challenges head-on, the human girl adapted, observed, and chose the path that preserved her energy while accomplishing her goals. One day, the instructors placed the recruits in a simulation that mimicked a deadly sandstorm. Visibility dropped to almost nothing, and survival required careful navigation through treacherous terrain. Many aliens panicked, struggling to find shelter. Grath tried to push through the storm with sheer force, but he stumbled, his shoulder wrenched painfully. The human girl appeared beside him almost silently. She pointed to a rocky crevice, barely visible in the storm, and nodded. Grath tried to protest, but her calm demeanor and unyielding focus left him no choice. They scrambled, together to safety. By the time the storm passed, he had no words, only a grudging respect for her ability to survive. "It's, just instinct," she said softly when he finally managed to speak. "You'll learn it too if you pay attention." Grath could only nod. Her words were simple, but they carried weight. Survival, she implied, was about patience, observation, and the courage to act at the right moment. Brute force alone was not enough. The next challenge involved predator drones that simulated attacks with electric nets. The recruits had to disarm the drones and retrieve a flag from the center of the arena. Many aliens charged in recklessly, only to be tangled and shocked. The human girl moved methodically, studying the drone's patterns. When she acted, it was precise. She disarmed the first drone with a careful cut of her improvised tool and used its energy to disable another. By the time she reached the flag, she was unscathed. Grath, trying to match her, charged ahead and became entangled in a net. The human girl freed him with ease, her movements swift and controlled. He struggled to rise, embarrassed, but she offered no words of scorn, only an expectation. Learn and do better next time. By the end of the week, the alien recruits began to change. The initial fear of humans grew into cautious respect. They started observing her, taking notes, even imitating her techniques in secret. They realized her small size, which had once seemed a disadvantage, allowed her to move faster, react quicker, and use resources more efficiently. Grath's shoulder remained a constant reminder of his failure. Yet, it also reminded him of the lesson humans could teach, a lesson that brute strength was not everything. He began practicing patience, analyzing. The instructors gathered all recruits early in the morning. The sun had not yet risen, and Korath's red plains were bathed in dim light. Today was different. The training world had prepared them for simulations and controlled exercises, but now they would face a real field assignment on the nearby planet Varkon, a volatile frontier world with jagged terrain, poisonous swamps, and dangerous predators. Excitement and tension rippled through the recruits. Many aliens boasted about their strength, certain they would dominate the humans. Grath, still nursing his shoulder, kept silent. He had learned caution, though his pride struggled to accept it. The human girl stepped forward, calm and ready. Her eyes scanned the horizon, taking in every detail. She had trained her senses for environments like this, and she already knew the planet's dangers would favor her instincts. The group boarded transport ships, their engines roaring to life. The ride was rough, with turbulence shaking the recruits in their seats. Many aliens whispered predictions of victory, but the human girl remained silent, observing patterns and preparing strategies in her mind. When they landed on Varkon, the first wave of danger struck immediately. Acidic mist drifted across the swamps, and razor-sharp plants snapped at anything that moved too close. Predator drones designed to simulate real threats swooped down, targeting the recruits. Chaos erupted as aliens ran, tripped, and struggled against unfamiliar terrain. The human girl moved with grace and precision. She navigated the swamp carefully, stepping only where she could support her weight. She anticipated the drones' attacks, ducking and weaving, and used sticks and stones to disable some before they could strike. Grath, trying to follow her lead, struggled. His shoulder twinged painfully with every movement. He charged at a drone, relying on brute force, but misjudged its trajectory. It knocked him to the ground, leaving him momentarily stunned. The human girl was already there, helping him rise. She did not scold him. She simply guided him to higher ground, showing him where to step and when to wait. Grath felt a mixture of frustration and awe. He hated needing help, but he could not deny her effectiveness. As they pressed deeper into the Varkon swamps, the instructors increased the difficulty. Real predators were introduced, giant arachnid creatures with venomous stingers and incredible speed. Many recruits panicked, their instincts to fight or flee clashing with the dangers around them. The human girl adapted. She climbed rocks, leapt across narrow ledges, and even used her knowledge of predator behavior to distract one creature while others escaped. Her decisions were not based on strength alone, but on observation, timing, and a deep understanding of survival. Grath followed her, trying to emulate her movements. Every step reminded him of his shoulder and his earlier failure, but he began to notice patterns she used, understanding that survival depended on more than raw power. Humans were patient and precise, and that combination was deadly in ways aliens did not expect. Midway through the mission, the group encountered a chasm too wide to cross in a single jump. Many aliens hesitated, unsure how to proceed. The human girl quickly assessed the terrain, using fallen branches and rocks to create a makeshift bridge. One by one, recruits crossed, guided by her instructions. Grath struggled, his shoulder screaming in pain, but she stayed by his side until he safely made it across. The lesson was clear. Humans relied on creativity, observation, and endurance. Brute force could not overcome the challenges of Varkon. but intelligence and adaptation could. Later, the instructors introduced a final challenge, an ambush by multiple predators simultaneously. Recruits were scattered and panic threatened to overwhelm them. The human girl quickly took charge, forming a small group including Grath. She assigned roles, coordinated movements, and used the environment to their advantage. While aliens relied on strength to fight, the humans used strategy. The predators were lured into traps and the group moved efficiently, never taking unnecessary risks. Grath fought alongside her, using his strength where it was useful, but following her lead where it mattered most. By the end of the day, the group had survived the assignment with minimal casualties. Other aliens looked at the humans differently now. They had witnessed firsthand the adaptability, patience, and endurance that set humans apart. Grath's shoulder throbbed, a constant reminder of his earlier arrogance, but he now understood the greater lesson. Survival required more than muscle. As night fell over Varkon, the human girl sat quietly near a small campfire. She cleaned her equipment, checked her surroundings, and remained alert. Even after a successful mission, she knew the galaxy held greater challenges, ones that would test every skill she had learned on Deathworlds. Grath approached her hesitantly. He had not spoken much to her before, but the day had changed something inside him. You were right, he admitted, rubbing his shoulder. Strength alone isn't enough. I misjudged you. The human girl glanced at him, her expression calm and measured. Strength is useful, she said softly, but intelligence, observation, and patience are stronger. You'll understand it more as you continue to survive. Grath nodded, humbled. The lesson had been hard, but it was clear. Humans were not only resilient, they were unstoppable when they adapted. And the galaxy had only begun to see what they could do. As the fire crackled, recruits settled into their makeshift camp. Some slept, some stayed alert, but all had a new respect for the human girl and the mysterious Deathworlder strength she represented. Even Grath, pride wounded but mind opened, understood that humans were not just recruits, they were survivors, leaders, and teachers in ways aliens could not yet fully comprehend. Tomorrow, the instructors would push them even harder. The frontier planet had many more challenges, and the human girl would be ready. She had survived harsher worlds, harsher conditions, and she would survive this one too. And every alien present would remember the lesson of the day. Underestimate a human, and the consequences could be severe. The days on Varkon were unforgiving. Each morning, the recruits faced challenges designed to test everything they had learned: endurance, intelligence, and teamwork. The alien instructors, impressed by the human girl's performance, began to subtly shift the exercises. They made them harder, less predictable, and more dangerous, hoping to break the other recruits and see how the humans would handle it. The human girl thrived. Her small frame moved easily across jagged rocks and treacherous swamps. She climbed, leapt, and crawled where aliens struggled. Her senses, honed from years on Deathworlds, allowed her to detect dangers before they became threats. Even Grath, her once arrogant adversary, struggled to keep up. One morning, the instructors released a swarm of drone predators into the canyon system. The drones were fast, aggressive, and programmed to work together. Many recruits panicked, running in different directions and causing chaos. The human girl, however, observed their movements, predicting the swarm's pattern. She led a small group, including Grath, through narrow paths, using the terrain to trap and disable the drones one by one. Grath, though stronger, realized he could not rely on brute force alone. The human girl's every movement was calculated and efficient. She anticipated threats before they happened. She adapted instantly when things went wrong, and she did it without panic or hesitation. She's amazing, Grath muttered under his breath as they moved through a rocky passage. He tried to imitate her strategy, but often lagged behind or misstepped. His shoulder ached, a constant reminder of his first failure. The human girl glanced at him, sensing his struggle. She did not scold him but subtly guided him. "Use your strength here," she said quietly, pointing to a heavy boulder. "But wait for my signal. Move too soon, and you'll get trapped. Following her lead, Grath lifted the boulder when the moment was right, blocking a narrow canyon entrance and stopping the drone's advance. His muscles strained, but her calm direction allowed him to act without fear. For the first time, he saw the power of human intelligence combined with endurance. Later, the instructors set a more dangerous trial. The recruits were forced across a swamp filled with poisonous gases and shifting mud. Many aliens struggled to maintain balance or breathe through the toxic mist. Grath began to panic, thinking the trial was beyond their skill. The human girl, however, thrived. She moved lightly, testing each step before committing her weight. She created a path using fallen branches and mud clumps, allowing her small group to cross safely. Even Grath followed her instructions carefully, relying on her instincts to guide him. Halfway through the swamp, a giant predator emerged, its massive claws tearing at the ground. The other aliens froze in terror. Grath tensed, ready to charge, but the human girl held up her hand. "Not yet," she whispered. "We need a plan." She analyzed the creature quickly, noticing a weak spot near its hind legs. With precise timing, she lured the predator toward a narrow channel and used a makeshift trap to immobilize it. Grath watched, stunned, as she executed the plan flawlessly. He realized that raw power alone would never have stopped the creature. The recruits returned to the training world of Korath, but the instructors had one final challenge prepared. This was no ordinary exercise. It was the Galactic Trials, a simulated interstellar mission designed to test strategy, endurance, and teamwork under near-real combat conditions. Recruits would face multiple alien species, unpredictable hazards, and zero-gravity environments. Failure was expected for most. The human girl observed the briefing calmly, her eyes scanning every map, every hazard, and every weakness in the simulation. The alien recruits, confident in their brute strength, whispered among themselves. Many underestimated the humans again, thinking that small size and less raw power would put them at a disadvantage. Grath's shoulder twinged as he listened. He had learned humility on Varkon, but the thought of facing another dangerous mission filled him with unease. He glanced at the human girl. She appeared calm, confident, and completely unshaken. His respect for her had grown, and he silently admitted that he would follow her lead when necessary. The mission began. Recruits were dropped into a series of asteroid fields orbiting stations and simulated alien war zones. Sensors tracked their movements, and holographic predators attacked from every direction. Many aliens immediately charged forward, relying on strength and aggression to push through obstacles. The human girl moved differently. She observed first, studying the behavior of the drones and environmental hazards. She noted the weak points in the terrain, predicted enemy movements, and planned the safest path for her group. She guided them through asteroid fields, avoiding collisions while efficiently disabling attacking drones. Grath followed closely, using his strength to move debris or shield others when necessary. He realized that his power was useful, but only when combined with her strategy. Each time he acted without her guidance, the outcome was less successful. He silently learned that his instincts alone were no match for human intelligence and adaptability. Midway through the trial, a sudden ambush occurred. Multiple alien species, simulated to be hostile, surrounded the recruits. Panic rippled through the group. Some aliens froze. Others tried to fight head-on, only to be overwhelmed. The human girl assessed the situation instantly. She divided the recruits into small teams, assigning each a specific task. Grath, hold the flank and block their approach. Others, follow my path through the narrow passage. Timing is everything, she instructed calmly. Grath hesitated. He wanted to charge and fight, but he trusted her judgment. Following her direction, he used his strength to block incoming threats, while minimizing risk to himself and others. The human girl led the central group with precision, guiding them through hazards and traps, always calculating the best move for survival. By the end of the ambush, the group had neutralized every simulated threat. Many alien recruits stared in disbelief. The humans had not only survived, but outmaneuvered threats that had overwhelmed stronger species. The instructors nodded in approval, impressed by the efficiency, adaptability, and leadership the human girl displayed. Grath, exhausted but focused, approached her quietly during a break. I never realized humans could do this, he admitted, rubbing his shoulder. You don't just survive. You control every situation. You think ahead. You adapt faster than anyone I've seen. The human girl glanced at him. It's not just about surviving, Grath. It's about learning, observing, using what you know and acting at the right moment. Strength is part of it, but strategy wins the day. Grath nodded. He felt a shift inside him. The lesson of his shoulder injury, the swamps of Varkon, and every challenge they had faced together had all led to this understanding. Humans were not only survivors, they were natural leaders, even in situations where brute strength seemed dominant. The trials continued, increasing in difficulty. Recruits were sent to simulate boarding hostile ships, navigating zero gravity, combat zones, and defending outposts from waves of enemy drones. Each scenario tested not just physical skill, but teamwork, intelligence, and composure under pressure. The human girl excelled. Her small frame allowed her to move through tight spaces where aliens could not. Her instincts helped her anticipate attacks, while her knowledge of survival tactics allowed her to guide teams efficiently. Even the strongest aliens began to rely on her strategies, recognizing that her guidance was the key to success. Grath, once arrogant and dismissive, followed her without question. He used his strength strategically, moving debris, blocking enemies, and shielding weaker recruits, but only when she directed him. He learned that combining human intelligence with alien power created a force stronger than either alone. By the final stage of the galactic trials, the recruits faced a massive simulated attack on a remote station. Alien ships swarmed, drones attacked, and hazards threatened from every angle. Panic spread among many recruits, but the human girl remained calm. She issued clear orders, coordinating movement, using terrain to their advantage, and improvising. Whenever the situation changed, the team survived. They completed the trials flawlessly. The instructors, once skeptical of the humans, nodded in approval. These humans, their instincts, intelligence, and adaptability are beyond expectation, one instructor remarked. Grath's respect was complete. He looked at the human girl with admiration. She had taught him lessons no amount of strength or experience could have conveyed. Humans were not only capable, they were extraordinary. That night, as the recruits rested, Grath approached her. I want to thank you, he said quietly. For everything. You've shown me what humans can do. I hope one day I can match even part of it. The human girl smiled faintly. You've already learned more than many will in a lifetime. Strength and courage matter, but thinking, observing, and adapting, that's what keeps you alive. And that's what makes humans dangerous. The galactic trials had ended and the human girl's reputation was cemented. She had proven herself not just capable but exceptional. Aliens would no longer underestimate humans. And Grath, scarred and humbled, carried a new understanding of what it truly meant to survive, and to respect those who could. The galaxy had witnessed a small group of humans overcoming impossible challenges, and in the quiet moments the human girl knew this was only the beginning. The galactic trials were over, but the echoes of their success lingered in every corridor of Korath's training world. The human girl had proven herself time and again, facing challenges that would have defeated the strongest alien recruits. Her calm intelligence, adaptability, and resilience had turned fear into respect, doubt into admiration. And Grath, once arrogant and dismissive, had learned the true power of humans. The final day of trials brought a ceremony. Recruits were gathered, and instructors addressed the group. Many aliens had failed, some barely surviving the trials. The human girl and her team, however, stood together, unharmed and confident. These trials were designed to test strength, skill, and endurance, an instructor said. Few expected to see such performance. Today we have witnessed a new standard of survival, leadership, and adaptability. The humans have proven themselves beyond expectation. Whispers rippled through the alien recruits. Even those who had doubted her now looked on with awe. Grath's shoulder ached, a reminder of the first lesson she had taught him. But his admiration for her had only grown. He approached her quietly, careful not to draw attention. "You've changed everything," he said softly. "Not just for me, but for everyone here. They'll never look at humans the same way again." The human girl nodded, acknowledging his words without arrogance. "Humans survive because we adapt. We observe, learn, and act when necessary. That's our strength. And it's not just me. Any human can do this with training, discipline, and courage." The instructors continued, awarding medals and commendations. The human girl received the highest honors, not just for her physical ability, but for her leadership and strategic thinking. Her team, including Grath, had survived scenarios that would have broken most recruits. Their success was complete and undeniable. After the ceremony, the recruits were allowed to rest. Many aliens approached the human girl to ask questions, to learn how she had handled the trials. She shared her methods calmly, demonstrating techniques and explaining strategies. Even Grath joined the group, humbly asking questions and observing her guidance. For the first time, the human girl felt the impact of her presence. She had not only survived the trials but had changed the perspective of an entire generation of recruits. Humans were no longer seen as weak or fragile. They were respected, feared, and admired. Later, she walked across the training field alone, reflecting on her journey. The red plains of Korath stretched out beneath the twin moons, jagged and unforgiving. She remembered the first day, the moment when Grath had grabbed her arm and thought he could overpower her. She had survived, of course, but she realized then that her true challenge was not just the trials, but the perception of humans in the galaxy. Grath approached her again, this time with less hesitation. "I've learned more than I thought possible," he